The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
Earnestly Speaking podcast coming to you on June 30th, 2022. We are officially, well, it's tomorrow anyway. We're just officially halfway through this year. How you guys doing? And this is kind of an emergency podcast. Actually, I'm not gonna lie to you. Breaking news today in the NBA: Kevin Durant, superstar, future Hall of Famer, two-time champion, has officially requested a trade from the Brooklyn Nets. In this saga between him and Kyrie Irving and Nets in general, these last 3 years has been, to say a soap opera, will be putting it lightly. To say that this experiment has been a disastrous failure, seriously, will be putting it lightly. In 3 years, this team of Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and for a little while, James Harden, one playoff series win in 3 years. Now, a lot of context could go into that, of course, of COVID. Durant missed the first full year of his tenure there because of the injury, his Achilles injury he had in his last year in Golden State. But this entire thing's been a disaster from day one. And I'm not going to sit here and say that I told you so and all that, but I was skeptical about this move 3 years ago for Durant because I didn't trust Kyrie Irving. And I know everybody's sitting here picking on Kyrie Irving, and yeah, there's people out there saying, "Why would you pick on Kyrie Irving for?" But I got to be honest with you, it's deserved. It's been deserved. You can argue that Kyrie Irving is the very reason this experiment, after 3 years, did not work. It was a disastrous failure. It was a mitigated disaster. I don't know what else you can explain that. Right now, reports are early that the Phoenix Suns and Miami Heat are the early front runners to get Kevin Durant. Two teams that we've heard that the rumors of that those are two teams that he's definitely wants to play with. But obviously I'm a Heat fan, so obviously I want him in Miami in the worst way. But I also recognize that Miami does not have enough assets, in my opinion, to sweeten the potential deal unless KD forces his way to Miami, which is going to be, I think, when you think about everything now, difficult because Kevin Durant does not have any leverage. You say, oh, well, he's Kevin Durant. He's a top 3 player in the league, top 2 player in the league. How's that possible? Kevin Durant right now, so this is why he has no leverage here. Then first off, the Nets have zero incentive to trade right away. This is not a situation where Kevin Durant has 1 more year in his contract and the Nets need to get something from him or else they lose him for nothing. Kevin Durant just signed a 4-year deal last year. So he has 4 more years in his contract. Actually, he's had to sign a 5-year deal. So the Nets have 4 years left on the contract. Okay? Fully guaranteed. Okay? Also, it's very important here, Durant did not sign a no trade clause. No trade clause in his deal at all. No player option his last year. Brooklyn holds all the cards here, all of it. If the Nets find a deal, say with Sacramento, for example, or say with the Hornets, a place that probably Durant does not want to go to, there's nothing he can do about that. The Nets can trade him to wherever he wants, wherever they feel is the best haul they can get back here. Now, obviously, you would think they would probably want to do the best they can for him. Obviously, you would think so, just because the PR of it all. But to be honest with you, if you look at the public right now and how this Nets story has evolved in the last couple of years, one can argue that the public actually sides with the Nets here. That the Nets have signed, and not so much Kevin Durant's the issue, but especially this is where the Kyrie Irving stuff comes into play here. That, basically that The Nets have done all they can to acquiesce Kyrie Irving. Find a new head coach. They fired Kenny Atkinson. They get Steve Nash. The Nets have done all they can to make this work. You get James Harden. That didn't work. You get Ben Simmons, and he hasn't played a lick of basketball on this team yet. So what we've heard after the season ended, after they got swept by the Celtics in the playoffs, and you saw Sean Marks, you heard Sean Marks. I think I spoke about this on the podcast a couple times. Some of the quotes, not really saying it, that they were sick and tired of all of this. And this comes down to the heels also of Kyrie Irving opting in, not even 2 days ago, into his deal to stay, $36 million deal to stay in Brooklyn. He wanted an extension, and the Nets refused him an extension. I was told, when this happened, that I said the Nets won this saga, and people tell me, no, what do you mean you won the saga? Here's why. The Nets have already, the way the Nets have operated especially in the last couple months, and more so since the end of the playoffs, since their playoff run rather, the Nets have already said that they are out of the Kyrie Irving business. That there was no way they were ever going to give him an extension. If you want to opt in, go right ahead and opt in. But we're not giving you more multiple years. We don't trust you. You're not reliable. Kyrie Irving has missed more games than he's played in Brooklyn in 3 years. So you can't blame him for all. You can't blame him for that at all. So that happened. And then you figure he opts in. Well, maybe still a chance they trade him. Yeah, maybe. And then, of course, KD today announces he wants to be traded. Now, do we know it's because of Kyrie Irving? Is it because he's just sick of the way the Nets treat Kyrie Irving? Is he just done in Brooklyn? Who knows? The rumor came out today that said that Durant wants to continue playing with Kyrie Irving, does not in Brooklyn. Good luck figuring that out. Good luck figuring out that situation. Which team would take both guys on? Kyrie Irving right now his value is solo right now, and is lowering every minute. He tried to get a deal with the Lakers. Apparently, that couldn't work out. Tried to find teams to do a sign and trade. Couldn't find a team. Came back to Brooklyn with tails, with a tail between his legs. And I think Kyrie Irving's a fantastic player. Kyrie Irving is box office. Kyrie Irving is one of the top three, in my opinion, top three best players to watch in this league when he's available. So this has been a crazy day. I thought maybe when this would be more of a quieter off season. Boy, was I wrong. You got the Bradley Beal stuff. He's staying in Washington. You got James Harden opting out his contract, but most likely he's going to stay with Philadelphia and sign a more team-friendly deal to create more flexibility for the Sixers. The Kyrie thing with the opting in, but then Kevin Durant changes the whole thing. But again, here's the thing: the Nets they can realistically sit on this for months, maybe in a year or two. I'm sure they want to get rid of Durant at some point, get this done a little sooner, but they're not going to take. They're going to take the best haul possible moving forward. If it's Miami, if it's Phoenix, if it's another team, they don't. There's no rush here for the Nets to get rid of Kevin Durant whatsoever, because they have his contract. He's 4 years. It's 4 years remaining in his contract, and there's no trade clause. So if a team like Sacramento, a team like Detroit decides that they have the best pieces that the Nets want to have, they can make that move, and that's it. And Kevin Durant can do nothing to stop that. But right now, the front runners so far that we're hearing are the Suns and the Heat. In my opinion, the Suns probably have the better assets right now. But I will say this: I tweeted this today earlier on Twitter and on social media as a whole. Keep an eye on the DeAndre Ayton situation in Phoenix. He's obviously going to be gone. He's obviously things ended ugly there with him. At the end of the year, he never got the big extension he wanted, the big max he wanted. He's pretty much done in Phoenix. And here's the thing that makes that interesting too. He is the biggest trade asset right now, currently. However, DeAndre Ayton has no incentive or obligation to actually help Phoenix whatsoever. Especially if he doesn't want to go to Brooklyn. Let's say he wants to go to Indiana or Toronto or wherever. and they're offering the max. He doesn't need a sign trade. He doesn't need he doesn't need help. He doesn't have to help the Suns. And to be honest with you, I actually, given how things have ended there in Phoenix, with the front office and the coaching staff too as well, him getting benched in that series against Dallas in the second round of the playoffs, I will actually probably expect him to give them the middle finger and say, no, I got my money ready. I don't need to help you guys. I'm getting my money anyway, and plus where you want to ship me to, I don't want to go to. So no, I'm not helping you guys. Now, will he burn that bridge completely? Who knows? Who knows? But I would say Phoenix right now has the best assets to give Brooklyn right now based on what Kevin Durant where he wants to go. But Miami has Tyler Hero. Any move that the Heat make when it comes to getting Durant, you have to figure Tyler Hero is going to be a centerpiece. I mean, he will have some draft picks also to give up to as well. But that's all they have. They have Tyler Hero, some draft picks, Duncan Robinson's contract, and maybe a couple of the pieces here or there. But I would argue that Phoenix's assets are much more valuable than Miami's. And it hurts to say that, of course, as a Heat fan. Where does he go? I'll be honest with you, I think Phoenix definitely one of the leaders in the pack for that. I know he's expressed wanting to play Devin Booker in the past. I actually think he'll fit well there in Phoenix too, especially with Chris Paul. Even though he had a disastrous end to the playoffs this year, he's still a productive player still in this league. You got Devin Booker, so they had one of the best backcourts still in basketball. You add Kevin Durant to that mix. Him and Booker will go absolutely apeshit when it comes to shooting. And they have a great team around them and a great coach in Monty Williams. And an opportunity here to beat Golden State in the West. Hopefully, for their sake. Who knows? Miami's going to fit too, in my opinion, because he'll be the guy immediately. Even though this is Jimmy Butler's team, Jimmy Butler's also someone that has, if you know Jimmy Butler, he's obviously a guy who can, he's the guy and he can score 30, 40 points in the game. You saw it in the playoffs, in some of the great games he had in the playoffs this year. Jimmy Butler's also the guy that likes to facilitate. He has no problem facilitating. In fact, he's expressed that he'd rather be a guy that facilitates rather than be the scorer. So Kevin Durant will have a green light here in Miami, especially. And Kevin Durant has said also in recent I don't know, weeks or months, whatever, but he has also said he's been very, very praiseworthy of Bam Adebayo. He's saying that last year in the Olympics he was very fond of him, loved playing with him. He obviously would want to come here to play with Bam and with Jimmy Butler, of course. But again, it's what pieces of the Miami Heat have is the question that makes this very difficult. So again, Kevin Durant wants out of Brooklyn. I guess we shouldn't be too surprised, really. Although we thought maybe they, Kyrie opts in. Let's try one more year. You got Ben Simmons. We'll see what happens there. And if it doesn't work out, then obviously you break it up. But clearly, I think the only thing now is what exactly triggered this? Like, is it the Kyrie stuff? Is it the Nets? Who knows? I know he told the owner himself in person that what we're hearing that he told the Nets ownership in person that he wants out. It wasn't through his agent. He went straight. He was there in person and told him that, which I respect, to be honest with you. What do you do? Assuming that Kyrie and Kevin did not play together, obviously the Kyrie stuff is interesting too. Obviously got to figure if Durant's done, Kyrie's done too as well. The Lakers stuff, obviously the number one contender for him. They got to trade Russell Westbrook first and foremost to make that happen, and then probably throw another piece there as well. Or the Nets throw another piece there as well to make the numbers work. But again, I don't think the Nets there's no incentive to help Kyrie either for the Nets. Like, what do the Lakers have that the Nets want? I don't think there's anything on there that they want, unless you're saying, give me Anthony Davis. There's no really other guys on the roster outside LeBron, Westbrook, and Davis that are, people that, the Nets, want. So, I don't know. This is going to be interesting. This is going to be an interesting situation. I don't think this is going to end in days. Probably not in weeks. I think this is going to go for months, probably. I think this will go for months. I think the Nets, ownership was very, very forthright about how they felt, that we don't want Kyrie Irving whatsoever, and we're willing to give up Kevin Durant if so. That's how bad things got with Kyrie Irving, is that they were willing to say, you know what, if it requires us getting rid of Kevin Durant to get rid of Kyrie Irving, so be it. And based on the way things played these last 3 years, and certainly the last year, Kyrie Irving not wanting to take the vaccine, and again, it's his right. It's his right, and I defend him on the podcast for months that it's his right, but that doesn't mean we have to pay you. That doesn't mean we have to keep you here. You're not entitled to be or get the max. His position, while people may respect it, and to some degree I respect it because he's still on his own principles. Although my opinion was very silly, very, very silly in my opinion. At the same time, the Nets don't have to pay you either, and they have stayed staunch on this situation. They stay staunch on their position on this. Kyrie probably thought they were going to cave at some point. They didn't do that. I have to respect that. I do. So, we'll see. Like I said, Miami and Phoenix are the favorites. I will say a dark horse in this. Keep an eye on the Celtics. This is one of the teams. Remember when Durant met with teams before he decided to go to Golden State in 2016? The Celtics were actually, from what I understood, the number 2 team, the runner-up to get him. And the Celtics they have assets. They can give up Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, and some pieces for him to play with Jason Tatum. So they have pieces as well too. Other teams in mind for Durant besides that, you can never rule out the Mavericks. They're always involved in trying to kick the tires and maybe on that. I don't see it happening. I heard rumors about the Sixers today, but I don't see that playing out, honestly. I think right now, I have to say it's probably a 3-team race between Phoenix, Miami, and then what was I going to say? Not Philadelphia, Boston, for his services. We'll see what happens. This free agency period is on as recording. We're only 3.5 hours in to free agency. Obviously, max deals were signed today, especially with Nikola Jokic and Devin Booker, who else, among others. The Miami Heat, of course, keeping Victor Oladipo, keeping Dwayne Dedmon, but also losing PJ Tucker to Philadelphia. Lots of moves being made, like mid-tier moves being made. But of course, the story today is Kevin Durant wants out of Brooklyn, and I don't blame him. I don't blame him. I'm just more curious on the why. Is it the Kyrie thing? Is it the Nets? Is it just change of scenery? Who knows? So we'll be following the story in the podcast throughout the days and weeks and months and all that. So anyway, that's enough for this Earnestly podcast. I'm on Twitter, of course, at EJ7, Earnestly Podcast across all podcast catchers. Anyway, we will talk to you guys soon. Talk to you guys later. God bless and see ya.